The Bolter by Taylor Swift. Today I'm taking a look at The Bolter from Taylor Swift's 2024 album The Tortured Poets Department Anthology. This is a slightly less complicated song lyrically than some of those I've been looking at recently, but nevertheless it's quite interesting. As has become something of a habit for me on this channel, I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we dive directly into the song. So, Lady Myra Edina Sackville West, born in 1893, died in 1955. She was married and divorced 5 times and lived a scandalous lifestyle. A book about Edina by Frances Osborne was published in 2010 with the full title The Bolter, the story of Edina Sackville, who ran away to become the chief seductress of Kenya's scandalous Happy Valley set. It's said that the character of Fanny's mother in Nancy Mitford's novel The Pursuit of Love and its 2 sequels is based on the character of Edina, and in that book she also refers to her as the Bolter. I have no doubt that Taylor is aware of these novels by Nancy Mitford as well as the book by Frances Osborne. And I have no doubt also that whether the Mitford novels are explicitly referring to Edina or not, she is still most probably Taylor's inspiration for this song. I'll have a fair bit more to say about this at the end of the song, I think, as to why she would choose such a character, what it means, what part this plays in Taylor Swift's discography. But for now, let's dive into The Bolter by Taylor Swift.
By all accounts, she almost drowned when she was 6 in frigid water. And I can confirm she made a curious child, ever reviled by everyone except her own father.
Now, I don't know whether there's any record of Edina or maybe even Taylor herself ever having fallen through the ice into frigid water. But whether or not that refers to an actual historical event, it clearly plays the role of a metaphor throughout this song, that this young child had a kind of near-death experience and that this shaped her life in some way, as it would, and that at various times throughout her life this experience echoed into her relationships, into her life as an adult. And it becomes a metaphor for what she goes throughout her life in the relationships that she passes through. Taylor begins by describing the girl as a curious child, ever reviled. Curious, I think, perhaps in a double sense, in the sense of being curious about things, but also I think in the somewhat more old-fashioned sense that we use that term when we describe something as a curious event or a person as a curious child. It's something about the child themselves that is intriguing, that makes them stand out. So I think there's the double sense here. The child is curious, but she's also curious to us, an enigma in some way, and ever reviled except by her own father. So there's something about her that drives other people away, but there's also this close attachment, this close father-daughter attachment, all of which probably goes into shaping the life of this character. And this is very much, again, one of those stories that Taylor tells with a strong central character, here a strong female central character. And again, she jumps almost straight into the song. There's very little in the way of introduction.
By all accounts, she almost drowned when she was 6 in frigid water. And I can confirm she made a curious child, ever reviled by everyone except her own father. With a quite bewitching face, splendidly selfish, charmingly helpless, excellent fun till you get to know her. Then she runs like it's a race. Behind her back, her best mates laughed, and they nicknamed her the Bolter.
This is one of Taylor's really, really great portraits of a character here. With a quite bewitching face. There's a bit of the old-timey language happening here, a quite bewitching face. Splendidly selfish. We would normally consider being selfish to be a negative quality, but here Taylor flips that. Splendidly selfish. Charmingly helpless. So this person who is reviled by everyone nevertheless has these incredible qualities that also make her very attractive. Splendidly selfish, a bewitching face, charmingly helpless, that makes, I guess, probably men want to come to rescue her. Excellent fun until you get to know her. This multi-layered character here, great fun to be with, but she's one of those people that maybe there are parts of her personality that come out at different times that rub you the wrong way, that can become threatening and dangerous. But then she's the one who runs like it's a race. A sense, an indication here that she lives her life as if it's a race, as if it's a competition, as if it's something to be won. Behind her back, her best mates, so she has friends, her best mates laughed and they nicknamed her the Bolter. There she goes again, running away, as she always does when maybe she gets too close to someone, when things start to get a little bit too dangerous.
With a quite bewitching face, splendidly selfish, charmingly helpless, excellent fun till you get to know her. Then she runs like it's a race. Behind her back, her best mates laughed, and they nicknamed her the Bolter.
Don't you just want to revise a little bit what I said about that a moment ago, where it says, excellent fun till you get to know her. It's not so much that you get to know something bad about this person. It's not that kind of until you get to know her. It's the fact that she runs away once you get to know her. She's the one who's afraid. She doesn't want people getting too close. So that's a slightly different interpretation that I would give that, I think.
Started with a kiss, oh we must stop beating like this, but it always ends up with a town car speeding out the drive one evening. Ended with the slam of a door, then he'll call her a whore. Wish he wouldn't be sore, but as she was leaving, it felt like breathing.
Okay, so she begins another relationship. It started with a kiss, as they always do, it seems. Oh, we must stop meeting like this. So the flirtation, that moment of getting to know each other. But, and this is a big but, it always ends up with a town car speeding out the drive one evening. There's some kind of fight, some kind of eruption. And she runs again, as things are getting perhaps too serious, as someone's getting too close to her. Ends with the slamming of a door, there's an argument, he'll call her a whore. But, another big but, as she was leaving, it felt like breathing. So there's a sense of relief as she leaves this relationship. So she enters into these relationships, started with a kiss, but it always gets too tempestuous, people get too close to her, and the minute they do that, she runs. But, as she's leaving, it felt like breathing. There's relief at the end of this. It's a bit like, well, it reminds me a bit like what people who self-harm do. One of the things that happens in terms of self-harm is there's this build-up of anxiety, and the only way to relieve this anxiety, or one of the ways to relieve this anxiety, is through cutting. So people do cut themselves, and they feel that momentary relief. It feels like breathing. And I get the sense here that that's what she's doing with these relationships, that the tension builds up in these relationships, the anxiety builds up, and then there comes a moment when she has to cut that relationship off. She runs, and when she does that, It feels like breathing again. And she keeps repeating this process. Just a word here about the use of the image of a town car here. Why a town car? Well, there's a kind of old-timey meaning to the word of town car, and there's a more modern meaning to the term of town car. In earlier times, a town car was a four-door car with a usually open driver's compartment and a separate compartment at the back, an enclosed compartment where the passengers would sit, like this. But in modern times, town car tends to refer to a modern-day luxury chauffeured vehicle. So either way, there's a sense of wealth and privilege here. Now, I don't expect that there's a chauffeur waiting in the car to drive her away at these moments, but I think that's the sense of the image here, that she's a wealthy person. She is privileged. So I think that's why the image of a town car is used here rather than any other kind of car.
Started with a kiss, oh we must stop meeting like this, but it always ends up with a town car speeding out the drive one evening. Ended with the slam of a door, then he'll call her a whore. Wish he wouldn't be sore, but as she was leaving, it felt like breathing. All her fucking lives flashed before her eyes. It feels like the time she fell through the ice, then came out alive.
So here is the link then between this falling beneath the ice and the relationships that she goes through. Each of these relationships becomes like her fall through the ice, and the relief that she feels of being alive when she comes out from the water. It's almost as if she's seeking this experience, seeking to repeat this experience throughout her life. She's entering these, well, what seem to her to be almost life-threatening, dangerous situations, so that she can then experience the relief of getting out, the relief of freedom. This seems to be the pattern that she's repeating. And Taylor here says not that her life flashed before her eyes, but all her fucking lives flash before her eyes. Each of these relationships is like another life. It's another opportunity to be born again at the end of each relationship.
All her fucking lives flashed before her eyes. It feels like the time she fell through the ice, then came out alive. He was a cat, wanted her bad, just like any good trophy hunter. And she likes the way it tastes, taming a bear, making him care, watching him jump, then pulling him under. And at first blush, this is fate, when it's all roses, portrait poses, Central Park Lake and tiny rowboats. What a charming Saturday, that's when she sees the littlest leaks down on the floorboards, and she just knows she must bolt.
I just want to point out the cadence of the lyrics here, not only in the verse but also in the chorus. There's a definite cadence rhythm to the way she's delivering the lyrics here. And here now she's highlighting the danger of the relationships that this girl enters into. He was a cad, but he wanted her bad. So he's one of the bad boys that Taylor likes to sing about. But he also finds her irresistible. He wants to capture her. She's a trophy worth capturing. And she likes that experience. She likes the way it tastes. And she, in her turn, is taming a bear. So, again, this reminds me a bit of the Cowboy Like Me song and other bad boy songs that Taylor's written over the years. He's trying to capture her, she's trying to tame him, trying to make him care, watching him jump, then pulling him under. So she is pulling him under the ice with her into the ice-cold water. And at first blush, this is fate. This seems like one of those relationships, the one kind of relationship. It's meant to be. Again, a recurring theme in Taylor's writing. It's all roses, portrait poses, Central Park in tiny rowboats. This little section here has again a kind of old-time romantic feel to it. Roses, portrait poses. I don't think many of us pose for portraits these days, but it was perhaps something that was done earlier in the 20th century. So we're kind of going back in time with these images here. And Central Lake in tiny rowboats. I suppose people still do that today, but for me it has more of an old time feel, referencing an earlier time. So here I think we're tapping into the image of Edina in her own timeline a bit more, although I think she's setting the story, Taylor is setting the story more or less in modern times. I think here we're having a little flashback to the earlier time period. What a charming Saturday, but then she notices the leaks in the boat. And she knows it's time to run, it's time to bolt. She's painting a beautiful picture here. I can see that in my mind. I can see the scene on the lake as a painting in my mind. It's got that romantic, maybe impressionist sort of feel to it, that image. But here Taylor's spelling out the pattern a bit more vividly, the pattern of this woman's life, this woman's relationships. She puts herself into dangerous situations, falling into the ice-cold water. She tries to bring the person down with her, but then as the cracks appear in the relationship, when the initial blush has worn off, it's time to run. It's time to get out.
He was a cat, wanted her bad, just like any good trophy hunter. And she liked the way it tastes, taming a bear, making him care, watching him jump, then pulling him under. And at first blush, this is fate, when it's all roses, portrait poses, Central Park Lake in tiny rowboats. What a charming Saturday, that's when she sees the littlest leaks down in the floorboards, and she just knows she must bolt. Started with a kiss, oh we must stop meeting like this, but it always ends up with a town car speeding out the drive one evening. Ended with the slam of a door, then he'll call her a whore. Wish he wouldn't be sore, but as she was leaving, it felt like breathing. All her fucking lives flashed before her eyes. It feels like the time she fell through the ice, then came out alive. She's been many places with men of many faces. First they're off to the races, and she's laughing, drawing aces, but none of it is changing. That the chariot is waiting, hearts are hers for the breaking. There's escape in escaping.
Here in the bridge, Taylor kind of goes over this pattern, re-emphasizes this pattern. She's been many places, men of many faces, making it clear that this is a pattern that she repeats time and time again. First, they're off to the races, and she's laughing, drawing aces. Again, there's a bit of an old-time feel to this for me, going to the races. Again, I can see the painting in my mind. I can't remember the name of the artist. I think it's Degas, Edgar Degas, who paints ballet dancers and paints racehorses, a lot of racehorses. And that's the image I can see in my mind here. Laughing, drawing aces, playing cards. Taylor's used the image of card playing a number of times in her songs as well. But none of it's changing that the chariot is waiting. I think the chariot here probably refers to the car in the driveway that she's ready to leave in, but it gives it that old-time feel again. But the chariot's also something that's used in literature and has appeared in mythology as well. I think of Chariots of Fire, the movie, which all of which refers to, I think, to Ezekiel's chariot. There's a book by Patrick White, and I've done a video on this book called Riders in the Chariot that describes this mystical experience that people have. So the chariot has lots of connotations for me. I'm not sure whether Taylor is aware of those connotations, but they're the echoes that this word chariot has for me, that it has a certain mythological quality. The chariot that Apollo drives across the sky too, carrying the sun. There's that image as well. Then she says, hearts are hers for the break-in. So she's in this for the game that's being played, I think. Hearts are hers for the break-in. And there's escape in escaping. That might sound like a tautology, but I think we know what she means here. It's like the lion being able to breathe again. She's physically escaping, physically running away from this relationship, but that gives her a much deeper escape. It's coming out of the ice water. It's coming back to the surface. It's coming back to life again, into a new life.
She's been many places with men of many faces. First they're off to the races, and she's laughing, drawing aces, but none of it is changing. That the chariot is waiting. Hearts are hers for the break-in. There's escape in escaping. Started with a kiss, oh we must stop beating like this, but it always ends up with a town car speeding out the drive one evening. Slam of a door, but she's got the best stories. You can be sure that as she was leaving, it felt like freedom. All her fucking lives flashed before her eyes. It feels like the time she fell through the ice, then came out alive.
So once again, when she escapes, it felt like breathing, but this time she says it felt like freedom. So like the person who self-harms, she puts herself into these situations, kind of recreating the fall through the ice, puts herself through these difficult times, knowing that at the end she'll break free, she'll come to the surface, she'll breathe again, she'll experience freedom again. So she puts herself into the kind of prison of this relationship in order to feel the joy, the freedom, the exhilaration that comes when the relationship ends. Can't say that that's a particularly healthy way to live your life, but it's a brilliant character portrait, I think, in this song. Now, just a couple of general things about this song. First of all, it's a very upbeat song musically. I guess that kind of matches the mood of going to the races, going to parties, playing games, the life of the roaring 20s. It has that kind of upbeat party feel to the music, even though in fact it's dealing with a fairly dark topic, really, of a person's self-destructive lifestyle, self-destructive in many ways anyway. I think what Taylor is doing here is dealing with a fairly serious subject, but in a kind of light-hearted way, which I think indicates that although this person's life could obviously be criticised, there's nevertheless a sense in which Taylor admires this life. She sees this person as a rebel, breaking out of social conventions, taking risks, living life to the full in some senses anyway. So I think there's a level of admiration that Taylor is demonstrating in this song towards this person. And I can't help being reminded of The Last Great American Dynasty for you Americans, where she admires Rebecca Harkness, who is similarly, in some ways anyway, similarly a rebel. She flouts social conventions. So does the character here in this song, the Bolter. And although her life in many ways was, Adina's life anyway, was chaotic, perhaps even quite dangerous, maybe toxic at times, there's a sense in which the life of that person is also exhilarating. They're breaking out of the constraints that society places upon them, particularly upon women. And in order to do that, the women have to behave in very unconventional, perhaps even dangerous and scandalous ways. And that's, I think, what's represented here in this song by this character, the Bolter, also. It's the way a woman breaks out of the constraints of society, even if in many ways that appears to be antisocial, possibly toxic, possibly self-destructive. This is the way that women find to break free, to express themselves. I think we see that in Rebecca Harkness, and I think we see that in the Bolter here in the life of Edina. In a healthier society, maybe they'd be able to express themselves in a more healthy way. But this has been the way forward for women in society, to become scandalous. That becomes synonymous with freedom, freedom from social restraints. And I also think that just as Taylor identifies with Rebecca Harkness in The Last American Dynasty, she also identifies with the Bolter here. Obviously, she's been criticized over the years for serial relationships, bouncing from one relationship to the next and so on. But she's digging into history here with Rebecca Harkness and with Edina here to show how this became a necessity for women, that this has been the path that women have had to tread through history, become controversial. So yeah, I think she's identifying herself with this figure, placing herself in the tradition of this figure. What do you think about that interpretation? I'd be really interested to hear from you. I think this could start a really interesting conversation.